could update your Zoom name, and Kat is going to drop our question tracker into the chat this morning. And that's where you can add some questions. And as always, feel free to just use the chat. We are capturing all your questions and we know you have a lot. So we will capture all of those and turn those around as soon as possible. Good morning. Okay, well, it's right at 9 o'clock. And people are still filling in. But I think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. Welcome from ODE. I'd like to turn the baton over to the director of our agency, Dr. Charlene Williams. Dr. Williams.
Good morning, and thank you so much for this opportunity to welcome you all and just say just the excitement and enthusiasm we have around summer learning, in part because many of you know that Oregon has one of the shortest school years in the country, and we need every minute of learning that we can grab with our scholars. And so thank you to those of you who are already doing amazing things to pull summer programming together for students. We were awarded $35 million to continue summer learning programming into this summer. We know it's not nearly enough to do all the things that some of you end up doing, but we're happy to be a part of the story of summer learning. So really excited about the work ahead of us. The team is going to take your questions and try to answer what we can, and then what we can't, we'll definitely come back to you with responses and resources. And so I just want to turn the program over to our students for just a moment. We actually have student voices from summer 2024 that we want to share with you, so that we can just be grounded in the why of what we do and why of this work and why summer learning is important. And so the team has a short video to play for you, and we'll turn it over to them.
And with that, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy the voices of our students. We'll turn it over to Neil, our Chief of Staff.
Thank you, everyone, for having me today. And also, just that was a beautiful presentation and really a testament to all of your hard work, of those of you who have dedicated yourselves to summer support and teaching and learning for students over the number of years. And so we really appreciate all of you in this space.
Apologies
So,
about that.
yeah, no worries. Yeah. We thank you for being here. It's important for us to kind of level set around what this meeting is and isn't. What we're not going to be able to do for you today is say who has money and how much. We're in the middle of the process of the working through the legislative process. We're really excited that the bill has passed both chambers. It needs to go to Ways and Means. That looks like it's today, and then it will be moving on to the governor's signature. So we have a few more days for this bill to get through the legislative process, and then we'll be able to provide you with all the information that you need around who's receiving a grant and how much. However, we also wanted to make sure that we gave people adequate time and information as much as we could, given the circumstances, to kind of really understand how Senate Bill 4082 kind of transformed into Senate Bill 2007 and what that means. So today we'll give you just a little bit more structure to that conversation. And in the coming days, we will make sure that we roll out.
Welcome to Starbucks. This is Melissa. Can we get any food started for you?
Very specific information. So this bill, what's really awesome is this bill provides summer learning funding for the 25-27 biennium, but it's the first time that we've achieved as a group of summer learning community members a permanency in summer learning. So this is a really big deal, everyone. And even though it's not happening in the timing that we want, even though it's not happening maybe in the exact structure that we thought it was going to be, this is a really big win for Oregon and for all of you in the summer learning community. So big celebrations to all of you and thanking you for all of your efforts to help get us here. We are prepared. We are ready. We have everything in place. We're just waiting for the legislative process to complete. And we want to make sure you know that we're going to be with you along this process, just like we were last year. It's a compressed timeline, but at the same time, we're ready and excited to be working with you. So just a little bit of history, maybe for those of you who are new to the summer learning space. In 21-22, we really had emergency-driven funding, right? We were coming off of the pandemic. There was a large amount of money, and there was money for everyone because there was so much money in the system. Every single school district had access to money, as well as CBOs. In 2023, we started working towards the permanency aspects of this work, but unfortunately, there was no state funding. So we had the loss of all those existing programs from a state funded model. A lot of communities and school districts kept their programs going with general fund and with other funds, but from a state perspective, there was no grants. In 2024, we really started working towards rebuilding the plan for the future with summer learning inside House Bill 4082. And we had an awesome work group, a summit, and great resulting data sets and reports that we'll make sure that we link for you if you haven't read them, that really helped us understand from the K-12 perspective, from our partners' perspectives, from the community's perspective, what it means to provide robust, effective summer learning programs, and what it is that we need to do as a community of summer learning, extended learning representatives to really make summer learning sing for all of our students. And in 25-27, we have a chance for stabilization and sustainability. And that's the really big win here. So I know that everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, we're right back in the same space of this timeline of just churning and burning and getting something set up really quickly. However, it is the vision for the future that we were all hoping for, and that there is long-term funding for the state of Oregon. And this slide really helps kind of identify the system and the cycle that you've all been experiencing. That top piece is the compressed cycle. It is, hey, what's happening? Is the legislature, is there money? Is there not money? And then everybody churns and burns the work as fast as they possibly can. And then you offer summer programming. Into the future is this second line, this beautiful space where we understand the data from the summer and we begin planning as early as October, where you can reach out to your teachers and your teams and your partners and build a program over time rather than on that compressed timeline. So this feels really exciting, and I'm really hopeful this is the last time we say, hey, friends, we have about just a short period of time to set this up. Our team will be, as soon as we get these summer program dollars out to folks, we'll be turning to the long planning work of the future of summer extended learning in Oregon. I mentioned the 4082 reports. If you haven't had a chance to look at them, please do so. They're a great testament, again, to all of your work, but it also details and identifies what we know we need to do iteratively in the future. So we're going to make sure that we attend to the sustainability of 24 and all the key learning, while we also attend to the legislative intent of 2007. And I think that's the really curious intersection that you're probably really interested in about today. But these are anchor documents for us. These are important. We're going to lean into them, and we're going to keep listening and learning as we go. I think when some people think about summer learning and extended learning, it is the old summer model, right? It was, hey, this kid's not learning, and let's get this kid in here. It's deficit-based, remedial drill and kill kind of skill work. And all of you have been working on that high quality summer learning for a number of years. And we really want to teach our community, our students, and our legislators that we want accessible, equitable, diverse, and inclusive summer learning programs. We want to be collaborative, interdependent, and relational with our partners in our community. We want to make sure that we're centering on 21st century skills and working through a strengths-based mindset in terms of what gifts our students are bringing and where we're going to take them from where they arrive at with us. In 2024, we had limited dollars just like we do right now. We had 66 grantees with 43 districts, 13 ESDs, and 10 charter schools, and 197 summer programs. We served 28,187 students, but there's also other summer learning happening, and extended learning happening in the state. And if you place those together, we're really serving a large amount of people. You braid resources, you help to ensure that the children that need services have them. Really exciting. We had 4,627 high school credits earned, and almost 80% of our goals were met that you all laid out. Really awesome. And if you haven't looked at it, the summer seed survey, 9,000 students responded. And thank you so much for that. It was so important that the students shared with us what they were thinking. And that video is a direct reflection of how they felt about their opportunities. And really, really critical and exciting that each summer program had an average of 6 partners, 377 community partners within those grantees. And we want to keep that trend and increase it into the future. So now we're sitting in a space where we're kind of building on 4082 and kind of sharpening our focus around 2007. And maybe some of you folks are like, hey, what the heck is 2007? I thought it was 3039. Well, as legislation goes, sometimes we take left and right hand turns and we end up with something a little bit different than we thought that we would have. And we're still really excited about where we're at today. 4082 supported accelerated learning, evidence-based informed strategies, community partnerships, and inclusive and student-centered programming. 2007 builds on 4082. So some folks are thinking, hey, now it's like a complete shift. No, it's not. It's very clear from the legislature that they want to make sure that 4082 learnings and processes and that great groundwork around the research base and all the work that we did is still very critical and a framework for how we move. And 2007 adds and prioritizes literacy and students not yet proficient in English language arts. So taking a look at our landscape of education and how our students are achieving, literacy is at the forefront of our minds. And so in this way, this summer, the summer learning programs will have a very centralized focus on literacy. It doesn't mean that we won't have other elements of great summer learning programs. We will, and we'll teach you about that. But we do want to make sure that we're very pointed in helping you understand that literacy will be a primary focus. So what's new? What's new in 2007, House Bill 2007? We have that continuous funding. That's awesome. It has to focus on literacy. However, future biennia may focus on other academic areas of need based on our statewide data. So really what the legislature in 2007 is saying is, all right, we know that summer learning matters. Dr. Williams mentioned the shortest school year in the nation here in Oregon, and that our students who really need access to additional supports need summer learning. And our goal is to ensure that every child has access to summer learning that needs it into the future. And right now we see literacy as a top focus, but in the future, we may see science, math, another area of focus. So the way that 2007, House Bill 2007 is written is that we're able to shift that linking component of summer learning to that academic area of need. So we'll look at our data, we'll have good conversations with the community, with educators, and we'll make a determination what that key academic thread will be. The 2007 requires that we prioritize students who are not yet proficient in English language arts. So one of the factors has to be taking a look at the student population that we're serving and making sure that we're identifying and keying in on students who are not yet proficient in English language arts. It requires us to use evidence-based literacy strategies, and it requires us to measure and report student growth and outcomes. We're also really excited that eligible entities now include our tribal nations. So I mentioned this earlier, but it's important just to continue noting that we want to make sure that our overall purpose in the grant is to accelerate learning and increase academic growth with a focus on literacy. So many folks are going to say, hey, well, can I still do credit recovery? Yes. Hey, can I still do STEM? Yes. Hey, can I still make sure that I have well-rounded, enriching activities that link up with some experiential hands-on work? Absolutely. There just will be a thread that moves through that's associated with the linking component of literacy. So we're still steadfast in our 4082 knowledge, what you all know about good research-based summer learning, around advancing our academic learning, supporting our youth and our social emotional needs, and having equitable access to family partnerships. So still ground yourself in that as you're thinking about the literacy components. When we think about, and maybe some of you watched the legislative session and really listened and heard our legislators around this bill, they really wanted to make sure that we were focusing on the fact that we want to ensure that all of our students have confident and capable readers, and that we address summer learning in the aspect of a strategy to reduce the summer slide and to accelerate student growth. And we know that you're going to produce a real intentional design, strong instruction with all your trusted partners that are in this room to ensure that all of the students that access summer learning really make gains. So I think there's some concern out there around what does it mean to have evidence-based literacy instruction? And does everybody have to have a reading endorsement? What about how do I train my partners to make sure that they know how to do this evidence-based literacy instruction? Our guidance document, our office hours, our grantee webinars that will be coming will help to craft and put some kind of structure around some of those conversations. And we know all of you are brilliant and you're experts at your work in terms of educating children and supporting them and providing the kinds of robust supports to help students in the summer workspace. And so we will provide some structure, but we're also inviting you to dream and utilize all of your expert skills. So what we're kind of centering on is that we want to ensure that there is explicit, systematic instruction grounded in science of reading. We want to focus on phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, and align with Oregon's ELA standards. This doesn't mean all day, all the time, you have to do literacy instruction. Depending on your programmatic design, it could be all day, the entire time. And for others, it could be embedded in the program design that you choose, like we talked about, a CTE focus, a credit recovery focus, a STEM focus. So still don't feel like the pendulum has swung completely. Instead, you're going to think about how you zipper together a literacy framework, a literacy lens, and a literacy intentionality inside all of the great work that you have already done in the past and that I know you'll plan to do in the future. Again, I shared still hands-on real-world experiences, still integrating art, STEM, cultural exploration, field trips. All of these things will still be a part of your work. And these experiences should support that reading comprehension as that through line. So when you're thinking about who you're going to intentionally invite to your summer programs, we want to make sure that you're thinking about your data and you're going to prioritize students who are not yet reading at grade level. So the goal will be to take a look at your scores, say, hey, here's the dispersion of our kiddos. Here's who's not yet reading at grade level, and an intentional reach out to those students to bring them into this space, in the summer learning space. We know it's a voluntary program. We understand that some may come and some may not, but we also really want to make sure, the legislation really wants to make sure that we're prioritizing those students. Really, the idea is that when you provide that kind of activity of the day, the instructional model of the day, you're going to address those achievement and opportunity gaps that are going to be varied in your students, in your classrooms, and in your groups, but that you have, again, supported that thinking around using benchmark data and formative assessments to really figure out, hey, I tested Tennille here. Here's where she was. I provided intentional instruction with hands-on, rigorous, enriching activities. And then I tested Tennille here. And guess what? I saw her literacy and her skills grow. I also saw her skills grow in science. I also saw her potentially, depending on your program, gain X amount of credits. So there'll definitely be a component based in the legislation where you need to do some pre and post testing. We'll talk about what that can look like in order to be able to communicate to the legislature that our intentional investment in literacy grew student performance in that area, as well as all the others that we are excited about in the program to show that these dollars are making the kinds of impacts that the legislature is requesting from us. So we're also going to provide small group individualized support. You have to think about these pieces as that they need to be taught daily. So this isn't I did a literacy instruction once at the beginning, and then we didn't talk about it until the end. So you're going to be thinking about how you give those continuous doses of instruction led by trained staff that's developmentally appropriate and culturally responsive. So those pieces of the literacy world are absolutely embedded into how you're going to approach the day over day instruction in the extended learning environment. I want to pause here. I know that there is so many partners in the room, And we want to stop and thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being partners all across the state of Oregon. We know that you're ready to help every single student in your community be successful during the school year, but especially during our summer months when so many opportunities are lost from that school day experience that isn't as a present or aware have opportunities for our kiddos in the summer. It's going to be really important, K-12 leaders and grantees, that you continue to partner with these agencies. We're working together to try, the partner groups are working together to try to make sure that all of you have access to who wants to do summer learning, who is in your community, maybe that you haven't tapped as a partner yet, and how to successfully work together. We know that this takes trust. This takes a collaboration, and it also it takes intentionality on both of our parts, both the program part from the K-12 side and the partners part. We can't and we shouldn't do this work alone. So this grant will have a requirement of partnering with a CBO or a local community partner as we implement really robust community-based summer learning. So some nitty-gritty details, more to come when we have our grantee meeting. This is spelled out in 2007 and based in the consistency of 4082. You have to have an existing summer programming plan. That was similar to last year. So don't worry too much about, oh, I didn't offer summer before, or I want to change my summer program plan. All of you have, through the different parts of your work, have elements of design associated with summer programming plan. So if you feel nervous about this, don't. We'll figure it out with you. You have to meet the 3 key grant goals. You must prioritize academic growth and literacy, as well as other content areas aligned with student need. Center that literacy through evidence-based practices. Have to have a partner. It must be 80 hours of continuous programming, same as the last summer. Prioritize consistent student attendance, meaning, it's not a come once when they want to and then come, 2 weeks later. And we know folks take vacation, it's okay, but prioritizing that student attendance, and it has to be delivered services in person. So this is still an in-person programmatic expectation. I'm going to turn it over to Savannah. She is amazing and does all this awesome work behind the scenes. I can't say enough how important her work is to making sure that summer is successful for all of you. So Savannah, some more details for the folks.
Well, thank you, Tennille, for that introduction. So to talk about the application timeline, because I know everyone's wondering, well, when are we going to know? When are we going to know, who's eligible, who's not, how much money we might have? What's the application timeline going to look like? We know it was short last year. It's going to be short again this year. However, we are trying to be mindful and make sure that it's not totally overwhelming and we're not trying to ask unrealistic things. So as soon as House Bill 2007 is signed, we are ready to go to start releasing allocations. And we'll be hosting a webinar for eligible entities to kind of go over what that application looks like, what the program expectations are going to be, and just go over how to fill out that application form. We will have, and that day we will open up the applications. We will have the application period open for approximately 1 to 2 weeks, probably more so on the 2-week side to give you guys enough time. And then we will have the applications be due. Now, when we say applications are due, we don't mean that you have to have your perfect, complete application submitted by the end of that timeline. We know that that's a very short timeline and that's a lot to ask. And so we will be accepting a partial application. Or even if it's just hey, I'm going to apply for these funds. I don't have my application filled out yet, but I do want the funds. Please, secure my funds for me. We will do that for you. We will work with you. We will make sure that you have every opportunity to be able to access these funds. However, we will not be able to accept late applications. So if that deadline passes and we haven't received anything from an eligible entity to say either, hey, yeah, I want to apply, or you haven't submitted at least a partial application, unfortunately, we won't be able to accept your application at that point. So it's really important that even if it's not complete, even if you don't have everything figured out, that you at least submit something to us so that we know that you want the funds and that we can secure them for you. Approximately 1 to 2 weeks after we close the application period is when we will be announcing our final awards, and eligible entities or entities were identified as eligible in the allocations list will receive confirmation that they've secured their grant funds. And any entities that were on the wait list that were invited to apply alongside the eligible entities will be notified if they ended up having grant funds awarded to them, and if so, how much. And then we have a deadline at the end of June is when we would want those fully completed, fleshed out applications to be submitted so that we can confirm that the program is going to be meeting requirements and that everything is in place. And then we can move forward with some grant agreements at that point. We're anticipating that should Ways and Means pass the bill today and the governor signs, that all this is going to be we'll be looking to do announcing awards around the end of May. So it's going to be going pretty quick. So keep an eye open for an invitation to that eligible entities webinar and for the announcement of our allocations as soon as we're able to send that out. And then we can go to the next slide. And as far as the application requirements, it's going to look extremely similar to the application that we did for summer 2024. And that application form is still currently posted on our webpage. So if you do want to kind of start getting a head start on it, just kind of familiarizing yourself with what the requirements are, what the asks were, go ahead and download the application form and just kind of start taking a look at it. And sorry, just to answer one quick question in the chat. To clarify, did we say that they won't be notified of if they will be eligible to receive funds at the end of May? No, we anticipate that we will be releasing allocations here within the next, hopefully, 2 weeks. And then the final awards would be announced at the end of May. So that in case there's waitlist entities, then they'll know whether or not they got funds. And so for the application form, we will be making a couple of small changes to it, but generally what you see in that application form is going to be what we're going to be asking of you this year. With one added component will be that we will need to see a budget. And this is going to be a very high level budget. This is not going to be a, every single line item spelled out type of a budget, but generally just a high level, how are you using these grant funds, general categories, and then are you braiding with other funds? And if so, what are those other funds and how much money are you using from those other funds to round out your full program? Everything else listed there is mostly the same, except for the meeting the literacy requirements. We will have a short narrative question about how you would plan to integrate literacy into your program plan. And I think we can move on to the next slide.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in, Savannah. Also, just so you know, if you know, don't worry, you will know if you, when the eligibility list is posted. We will send emails. We will make sure that you know exactly where to go on our webpage where you can watch for that. So you will not miss it. Don't worry. Don't worry. We've got you. One of the things I wanted to say is if you are unable to stand up a summer program this year and you are eligible, there is no shame, no blame. We are late in the cycle, right? So if you know that you are unable or do not have the capacity to stand up a program, let us know as soon as possible. This way we can go to the next eligible entity on the waiting list and let them know right away. That's why that big, we won't accept late applications or just an acknowledgement or a started application. Let us know and be kind to your neighbors and community around you, because we know there's a lot of eligible entities that want these grants and want to know as soon as possible. So as soon as you let us know, that helps us go down the list to notify those on the waiting list. And you won't miss it. Don't worry. Don't worry. Another thing we wanted to bring your attention to is we have all of these wonderful resources. Not only do we have all of the wonderful literacy resources that we shared throughout the webinar, but we have our Summer Learning Best Practice Guide. We have the Toolkit, which is a practical planning tool that has a planner in there. It has all kinds of great information to help you lift up and implement a high quality summer learning program. We also have our Jumpstart Kindergarten Toolkit for those transition programs, and the transition programs are also eligible. So keep that in mind as you're designing your programs. And then finally, our State Summer Learning Grant webpage. Now, this is the website you want to bookmark. Get this on your bookmark list, star it. This is where all the updated information will be listed. All of the eligible applicants will be listed, hopefully in 1 week. Our fingers are crossed, maybe 1 week to 2 weeks. That will all be there. We have House Bill 4082 from 2024, all the information still there. And when we get the green light, when we get authorization, all that will shift and you'll see all the new information for House Bill 2007. So we're a little ahead of the game and eager to get going. So ODE stands ready just as soon as that legislative process is complete. Also, our Summer Learning Resource webpage that has a lot of great information, webinars, just more tools for you. And of course, our Summer Learning Team inbox. So feel free, we're a small team, but we're a mighty team. Feel free to add your questions. We are tracking them. We are being currently flooded with questions about when is funding, is there funding? So no, we will be back to you as soon as possible. We'll also post all of your questions today and ongoing questions on that Summer Learning Grant webpage for your access as well. And then finally, we started with student voice, and we wanted to end with some snapshots of our wonderful Oregon students here, engaged in enriching, connected learning this past summer. And our governor, Tina Kotek, said it well, that we envision an Oregon where all students have access to these essential learnings and enrichment opportunities. So really deep gratitude for your participation today. We know this was last minute. We know that you're eager for more information, and this may seem unsatisfying, but no, in the next couple of weeks, you'll have everything you need to move forward. Don't forget our question tracker. You might want to click on that and bookmark it as questions pop up. Pop them into the tracker. We're going to be actively watching that as well. And then again, our summer learning website. So with that, I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover today. More to come. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or if you want to come off mute, we do have a few more minutes and our team is here to field any questions you may have.
Question, how does this relate to high school credit recovery? So you said the focus has to be literacy. Can a student earn a credit in a science class or a math class, even though there might not be an ELA endorsed teacher doing that credit recovery program?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Yes, and what you'll need to think through is how all of the students in the space. So I'm kind of thinking about how these classrooms looked when I was a teacher. Often in credit recovery, each a student was working on a different class at the same time in the space. That's okay. And that instructor will need to make sure that they're threading on a daily basis literacy instruction that's relevant to that group. So I imagine it like thinking about where that student's gaps might be in terms of their literacy knowledge base and instruction. You do an instructional element filling those gaps. They practice that while they're doing their credit recovery class. And every day you're just adding elements to that, right? So as we think about this, when I was teaching high school and we utilize the strategies of vocabulary or answering key questions, all of those comprehension pieces. So you need to think through how to utilize those English language standards and ensure that they're getting those instructional pieces while they're also spending their time doing credit recovery coursework.
Yeah, I'm just going to pick a couple questions in the chat, but please come off mute. Here's one that says, I know you're still working out the details of funding, but if we were really far down on that eligibility list, will the funding formula be similar? We were 163 before. What are the odds? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. What was really important to our team, what we can say right now, what's really important to our team is that we funded as many programs as we possibly could, while making sure that we were attending to the legislative intent and the key learnings that we have had in the past around sustainability of funding. We know folks have been in and out of access to funds, and that is really problematic. So our goal was to develop a model, excuse me, that was sustainable in nature while meeting the legislative intent. And I know, sorry about feeling unsatisfying in terms of the answer. We wondered today if we should meet or not. And we felt like with this compressed timeline and with the unexpected shift towards literacy, that we just needed to get some knowledge out there in the space so that folks could start thinking about summer learning 2025. And then as soon as possible, we will make sure that every grantee knows where they're at on the list. We'll post that list like we did last time. It'll look very similar with eligible to apply and waitlisted, not eligible to apply. We encourage folks to, if you don't need all of the money, don't take all the money. We'll take every piece of those dollars and put it to the next person on the list. I think Raquel shared, or Savannah, that if you can't take this money because it is too late, you have your entire school torn up to do some bond work. This is not a situation where folks are going to be upset that you're unable to take these funds. We know that in the longer game, next year, you'll have more time to plan. But every entity that isn't able to take those funds allows another entity on the list to take them. So we'll be helping each other in this moment as we look at that prioritized list.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the kindergarten transition, incoming kindergartners. And last year we struggled with the 80-hour requirement because it will be, the first time some of these kids are coming into a building in front of someone. And I'm just wondering if that's a hard 80 hours. And last year we worked around it by braiding funds and all of that. But I am curious about the 80-hour requirement for what we call Kinder Academy.
I can jump in for that one. Hi, Veronica. Thanks for the
Hi.
question. And I think others have the question as well. So we've solved for that this year and aligning to our Jumpstart Kindergarten program. So the minimum requirement for a kinder transition program would be 30 hours. It's more developmentally appropriate. And so we've reduced that from the 80. So that's the one exception from the 80 hours.
Oh, you made my day, Raquel. Thank you.
Well, good job. Good. I'm glad for that. Unsatisfying with eligibility list, but at least we made your day with that one.
Can I ask a
I have a
question?
question. Oh,
Sorry, the 80 hours, we had to close one time or maybe two due to heat. We don't have AC in our buildings and we have contract language. If temperatures get to a certain level that we will cancel programming. So how does that impact the 80 hours and all the high heats we're getting as of
Yeah,
late?
thank you so much for the question. We absolutely understand, and student safety first, right? we know that disruptions like this happen. The goal is that you're designing a program for 80 hours, continuous hours. And when and if these pieces happen, it will be accepted and understood. I think the moment that it becomes pervasive and where we're having schools not in session more than it would be in session would be a conversation with us, and we'll figure it out. But absolutely, we know students sometimes won't come. We know that circumstances like this happen. So happy to help with all that.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question regarding partnerships and their requirement for meeting the explicit reading instruction and the Oregon standards for literacy, specifically in elementary. We had partners last year that we provided funding for, and they provided their own enriching program. And then I'm not sure how they would know the students that were below grade level, or how we might support them in that many of them don't already have explicit reading programs that they're teaching kids. So what's the thinking behind that, and how can we support our partners in that way?
I can jump
Kelly?
in
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
answer that one, Sandy. Thank you for the question. Really good question. So what the legislation says is that partners certainly can help support reading and literacy in a number of ways, through evidence-based practices, through providing literate, rich environments, doing read alouds, reading with kids, but they can also provide additional academic enrichment. So just ensuring you are meeting those program requirements. Maybe part of your summer program, you have licensed educators or educational assistants. They're focused on, let's say, high dosage tutoring. And then you have a section of your program where you might have partners come in and they're reading a great book and learning to dance and doing other enriching activities that motivate kids and engage kids, and you're linking arms in that way. So there are no strict requirements right now on just exactly how partners connect. They can, but knowing this runway, there's some flexibility in that. And the idea is this is a strength-based model, right? That we're all coming together with all the expertise, all that we know about healthy whole youth development, and we're linking arms to create this robust program where kids are engaged both head and heart, and we're utilizing our partners and our district and school staff to make that happen. Does that help, Sandy?
It does. I think it just shifts our in terms of what we did last year by providing funds to those partnerships, and they had their own program. That really what I'm hearing is that it needs to be a more collaborative type of process where we would work something out together. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really about that co-creation and aligning to the goals and vision of the program together, and kind of weaving it together so it's just not your equal partners in that, where you can contract for a good portion of your program just as long as those program requirements are covered. Okay, I think Fidel?
Raquel, if I could interject with a clarification that might be on some folks' mind. I do see some folks here who oversee programming for SSA summer program for Title I schools, and some of the questions deal with requirements. And as the folks in SSA know, programs must be designed to address academic content standards, but SSA does not specifically stipulate literacy. So it says academic content standards, and oftentimes programs focus on literacy, but the OARs do not stipulate literacy. So I just want to make that distinction that the state summer learning grants this year, you'll see the stipulation on literacy, but you do not see that in SSA summer program.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. And also, we will have a webinar series where you'll have more information. You'll be able to get more information, as well as weekly office hours that will be starting shortly, where you can get all your questions answered. Fidel, you've had your hand up for a while now. Jump in.
Well, thank you. I think Sandy kind of like, I'm just picking up with what Sandy was like saying in regards to like the funding and the structure of collaboration between the CBOs and the districts and the school districts. So it seems like everything will funnel through the schools and the school districts, and then the CBOs will have to partner with excuse me, with the districts as long as they meet the objectives. My question around that is like, is there any, because we do partner with a lot of schools and Title I schools, but there's any I would say database that we can like CBOs can have to enrich our portfolio with schools, and then us also the schools enrich their portfolio with our programs to be aware of it, that we can work strategically to make sure that, you know, like there's more enrichment in the literacy.
Yes, thank you for that question. And you named a dream of ours that we'd love to strive to provide more opportunities for schools and districts to engage with community partners, where we have a more transparent dashboard of where programs are located, where community organization programs are located, and places where we can come together to build and co-create together. And now that we have House Bill 2007 and we have some stability, some ground under our feet with these ongoing multi-year funds, that is such a huge celebration, because we can start to begin to build towards that and live into that vision. So thank you for naming that. It's something that we see that we want to do and be more intentional about. And so more to come, and it's going to take us linking arms to do it. So we hope you continue to engage with us.
And I think, I know, Carla, I'll have you next. I just want to make sure the braiding and blending of resources, of programs, both, you know, private, public, you know, federally funded, all of those pieces we're super hopeful for. I mean, the goal is to ensure that we are serving as many students as possible. I know they maybe have different grant components, and you guys are also brilliant at trying to figure out how to weave those together. And I think that there's been some questions in the chat. What about this funding stream, that funding stream? This is a new funding stream based off of the great work of 4082 and all of you folks over the many years of extended learning. And I think we're going to grow and enhance and iterate into the future and really turn, like I named earlier, you know, we're going to kind of put some real quick structures in like we did last year, but we want to make sure that you all know that we are going to turn, as soon as we turn summer 25 out, we will begin talking about rules and guidance documents and summer 2026 right away, because we want to make sure that all of you have the longest possible runway to design your programs into the future, and we get kind of out of this compressed cycle. So that feels really exciting. I think it's Carla and then Shannon.
Thank you. I put these in the question thing too, but just to build on one of the questions around credit recovery, we will definitely be, if we are eligible, applying for these funds for our credit recovery. And the question is around assessment. So I totally get weaving the literacy. We already have to be doing that. Adolescent literacy is an issue, no matter what, you know, literacy is an issue. Great. It's the assessment piece that I'm a little concerned about, because if we have a student, and all of our credit recovery is in person with support if they access online, but and it's proficiency based. So I can imagine a student doing a math credit recovery, the teacher's weaving in literacy, but when they're done, they're done. So doing a pre-post assessment for literacy is the question that I'm most concerned about, and the time that it takes to issue an assessment in a compressed summer program versus instructional time. So that's one of my questions. And then I have a second question around, if we are eligible, to what extent can we use the funds, maybe not this year, but in future years, for administrative costs? Because some of us don't have a whole lot of extra braided funds, like Measure 98 and SIA is eating up every you know, it's because general fund still doesn't know, those grant funds are being sucked into just keeping our school year programming up and running and not laying off more staff. And therefore, we're going to need people to have the time to do the planning and the hiring and all of that. And that we will need administrative costs somehow to manage this long term, or it will always be whoever we can find that year who's willing to do summer in addition to their regular job. So I just want to advocate and ask.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for the question. There is a portion inside 2007, there is a designation for administrative costs, and that was reduced from 10 to 5%. Isn't that accurate, Raquel and Savannah?
It depends.
It depends.
Yeah. I
More
believe
to come.
10% is what it will be allowed though.
Okay, there was different iterations and I had forgotten. So we know we have administrative costs. I just put something out into the world. Please take it back. I should always ask the real smart humans in the room, which is Raquel and Savannah, before I say things like that. But there will be administrative costs allowable. Some conditions around food and transportation are clearly really important, and that is critical. In terms of the pre and post test, which I know is required in the law itself, Raquel, what are your thoughts around Carla's question?
Yeah, Carla, I would think about it in a little zoomed up, looking at your overall program design. Do you have a component that's focused on literacy for X number of students, right? So you, at the middle and high school level, when you're looking at credit recovery, you're not going to have a literacy pre and post. If you have a content area that's specific, like looking at math, like earning credits in math, we're not going to ask you to weave in an additional literacy assessment there. That's unreasonable. No, we're not going to do that. No, but you should have a literacy focus and component with your whole program, and a way to show that we are focusing and prioritizing this area. But of course, you might have credit recovery options in math or science or other areas, and that is absolutely okay. We're not going to have you double assess at all. So I would think of it just a little more zoomed up and look at your overall program structure and who you're serving. So there is room within House Bill 2007 to add other content areas, but your primary focus should be on literacy. Did that help? Okay. Right, Shannon.
Thank you. I am curious about the students that we are serving in this program using the funds. Are they primarily intended to be students that are enrolled in our district through the regular school year? Or, we have a charter school within our district, and there's also a private school within the district, and there's migrant programming in the summertime and whatnot. So are these funds intended to be, are targeted to be used with students who are enrolled in our school district during the regular school year? Or is there capacity to, or is it allowed to then expand that to just anybody who's here for the summer? I guess the reason that I wonder is, one, we're considering using our pre and post as some of the assessments that we're using during the regular school year, and then utilizing some of the components of those assessment suites during the summer program. And if they aren't part of our regular school academic year, then how do we ensure that we are able to have that pre and post? And then also, if we have students that are also within our district for the summer that are maybe there because of migrant family work, then and we never know when they're showing up or when they're going to be leaving, how are we able to ensure that we have that pre and post data?
Yeah, really great question, really complex question. I'll
Mhm.
try to, and Shannon, I remember this from last year too, and you were you were often in office hours and we were puzzling through together. So we may have to drill down to your specific, how your program specifically structured to talk more about that. But yes, so really these funds are directed for the students who attend your school district. And of course, if you have other private school students in the surrounding area, virtual charter school students that live and reside within the area, you absolutely could invite and have those students attend the summer program. So that's not a question. You could certainly invite and have robust participation. Also looking at your funds and how you are going to prioritize and engage and recruit and provide culturally responsive, effective outreach and engagement to your families to ensure that our students not yet reading at grade level are prioritized for that recruitment, right? You can build this beautiful program, but these are voluntary programs. So if you're not intentional about that recruitment and what it looks like, you might not get everyone you need. So I would say start there. And then we want you to ground in your evidence-based, high-quality instructional materials where you can do an authentic pre and post tied to the instruction students are receiving in the summer program. So that might have to be differentiated, and depending on the expertise of your staff and the materials and the programs you offer, you're going to do the best you can to get a good assessment on what the students know and what you want them to know, understand, and be able to do at the end of that instruction. So that design is up to you. It's at the local control. We just encourage that it is really grounded in what we know about good assessment and high quality instruction. So I don't know if that answered completely, Shannon. I know it's really complicated, but we invite more conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely gave like the quote unquote easy answer, even though it is very, very complex. So just to follow up with that, would charter schools have their own separate allocation if they at some point wherever they fall on the list, or would it be expected that a portion of the district's allocation would be then offered to them?
I can jump in on this one. Yeah, so it would be very similar to last year where charter schools do have their own allocations that they are, if they're far enough up on the list, they're able to apply on their own behalf. However, we did also include the charter school students when we were considering the total student population for each of the districts. So in case their charter school is not high enough up on the list, the district itself would still potentially have been considered to have enough funding there to include their charter school students, so that everyone
Great.
still gets served.
Great, thanks so much.
Also want to add, and I know we're over time, so happy to have folks drop off as they need, and happy to stay on if as questions are still coming up for folks, is that ESDs will continue to have funding as they did last year with the express intent to provide services to entities, to K-12s who did not, and other entities that are eligible to apply that did not receive funding. So we'll have a special meeting with ESDs. I haven't seen the list of ESDs on, but we're going to host a meeting hopefully next week with ESDs, but to really help them understand how to direct and support funds to school districts in regional groupings and focusing on districts that did not receive funds. So if you're not on the eligible list, one of our goals is to make sure that our ESDs are connecting with each of you to make sure that you're partnering on those funds.
I had a question about attendance. So that, let's say the program is 80 hours, is it a single student we're serving for the 80 hours, or the program is 80 hours and like one kid does it for 3 weeks and another kid's 4, but this kid can only come for 2?
That's an excellent question, Susan. Thank you. The idea is that, and 80 hours, that's really the floor. That if you can offer more than 80 hours, we know that what research and evidence says is really 5 weeks of summer programming. So that's really the floor of the 80 hours. You're looking at a consistent cohort of students that are going to regularly attend that program for the whole program. So what we know to be true is that when students attend regularly and they receive high quality instruction, it moves the dial. It moves the dial for the outcomes that we're hoping to see. So when you're actively engaging in recruiting, it's helpful to meet with families and share, hey, this is the goal and hope of the program. And we know vacations happen. We know sometimes that kids can't attend the entire program, but we want to encourage that regular participation so that they can realize the results of these wonderful programs. You know, they can't do what they're intended to do if kids aren't there and if they're not attending regularly. So we highly encourage that. Typically, we try not to turn any kids away, but we do want that consistent cohort throughout the program. Did that help, Susan? Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end of our web. There's no way we can get through all of these questions, but we are tracking all of them for you, and we'll be coming out with an FAQ just as soon as possible, and more importantly, more information on those eligible entities coming just as soon as possible. So Tennille, any last thoughts?
Thank you everyone for coming today. And like Raquel said, well, we are ready. We are ready to work with you, and we're just waiting for this legislative process to finish up, and eligible entities will be notified, and we'll continue to partner throughout this process to ensure that we are helping everyone get access to the resources and information they need to write their grants and to provide these great services.